welcome to this next episode of the Cancer Truth Tube series. And today we are going to be covering what I consider a really crucial aspect of this whole shift in paradigm surrounding cancer. Now, right at the outset of the series, we said that undergoing a paradigm shift in our understanding of cancer was absolutely crucial if we are to begin achieving different results in cancer. Real solutions, lifetime solutions in cancer. And so today we cover one of these core aspects, and that is the perception of cancer. Now, let me begin by saying that our perception of cancer in the modern time is fundamentally flawed. The way in which we perceive what is happening in our bodies when one is diagnosed with cancer is simply not in alignment with the eternal truth of what this disease is. And this misperception has proved to be a giant disservice to individuals trying to prevent cancer, trying to heal from cancer. And because it is such a pervasive misperception, it's been a gigantic disservice to humanity at large. And so I think it's fair to say that it really is an important aspect that needs to be addressed, and yet seldom is. So let's look a bit closer at this this thing called perception, specifically with respect to cancer. Now, our perceptions are important because they drive our beliefs. And we know our beliefs are paramount in determining how we respond to any given situation. And so our beliefs around cancer determine how we respond in choosing our treatment choice. It also determines the entire physiology in our body, our biochemistry, and this in turn either promotes our healing or impedes it. And our beliefs around cancer also dictate our entire mindset. And so our perception quite simply sets the stage for everything that follows on from it. And it also determines our experience of cancer and the ultimate outcome of our journey with cancer. So let's then have a look at the current perception of cancer in the modern times. Well, cancer is likened to an autoimmune disease, and you might know that an autoimmune disease assumes that the body has turned against itself. And in the case of cancer, this assumes that normal cells change into cancer cells, seemingly with a malicious intent, and begin to multiply in that primary organ and then spread around the body and multiply in other organs until causing the eventual demise of the body. Now, for anyone who's been diagnosed with cancer and perceives cancer in this way, whether consciously or unconsciously, it's a really scary thought of what is happening in your body. And it's akin to an inner monster running rampant for no apparent reason. And but here's the thing: this is simply not the truth of what cancer is. And let me say right now that your body would never turn against you. Your body is always on your side, and cancer is no different. And I'm going to cite just one small example to demonstrate this. Imagine for a moment that you are cutting vegetables, you're preparing for dinner, and you accidentally slice your finger, and your finger starts bleeding profusely. Well, within moments, your magnificent body sets into motion this quite ingenious set of events which brings about the clotting cascade, which brings into alignment all your clotting factors, and together with this You see an expediting of platelets to the area, and before long the bleeding has stopped. And this is without you knowing a thing or doing a thing. It is simply your ingenious body acting on your behalf. So your body is quite simply hardwired to survive, and cancer really is no exception. And so anybody who tells you that your body has turned against you, whether it be cancer or in any other autoimmune disease, quite simply they are mistaken. So if cancer is not an example of your body turning against you, then let's look at what it truly is. Well, to answer this question, we go to Dr. Otto Warburg, who was credited with discovering the primary or the root cause of cancer. And he demonstrated that this primary cause of cancer was a deprivation of oxygen at the cellular level. And he showed that cells that were deprived of 35% of oxygen or more for 48 hours would turn into cancer cells. And this really shouldn't be surprising, because you and I can't survive very long without oxygen, and so the same applies to every cell of our body. Now, the truth is that in everyday life, our bodies are being constantly challenged through a range of different stresses, and these stresses ultimately result in a deprivation of oxygen. Now, coming back to the point that our body is always on our side, if these cells were to be deprived of oxygen and were to then die, it stands to reason that the associated organs would begin to fail, and organ failure would result in our demise. Now, our bodies, as we now know, are always on our side and will do anything to help us to survive. And so in these scenarios where oxygen is being deprived, rather than these cells dying and risking you die, these cells do something quite amazing. These cells, in the attempt to help you to survive, rather than dying in the state of oxygen deprivation, they change in a way that enables them to continue to survive, to enable you to survive. And this change is called cell mutation, or the formation of cancer cells. So, far from being this malicious turning against the body, the formation of cancer cells is quite simply an ingenious attempt to help you to survive. It's the proverbial twist in the cancer tale, if you will allow me that. And it's an incredible shift in our understanding of cancer, because it leaves us realizing that far from our body turning against us, it is an example of our body helping us to survive, and it's a short-term survival mechanism. It, of course, is then up to us to address the oxygen deprivation, to learn how we can go about reversing oxygen, the changes in our lifestyle, etc., and we will get to those. And in doing that, restoring oxygen to our cells. And this transforms our entire idea and response to cancer naturally, because we are left with understanding that responding to cancer by using surgery, chemo, and radiation, i.e., addressing the cancer cell as the enemy, is simply missing the point. We know now that the cancer cell is not the enemy. The cancer cell has formed out of necessity in a oxygen deprived scenario, in a hostile cellular environment. And so cutting the cancer cell out or attacking it with chemicals and chemotherapy or radiation is simply missing the point. And B, we realize that because the body is on our side, we really need to work with it, in harmony with it, in addressing this oxygen deprivation and making changes in our world that enable this restoration of oxygen to the cells. And when we do this, one of two things happen. Either these cancer cells can revert back to normal cells, or tumors will begin to disintegrate and be eliminated by the various portals of our immune system. And so, simply knowing this transforms our entire response to cancer, our entire treatment choices. It also transforms our fear, knowing that the body is still on our side, and we know that we can actually dictate our own outcome simply by learning and then employing the various methods of restoring oxygen to our cells. So I'm sure you can see an entirely different outcome, an entirely different response simply by shifting our perception of cancer. So I hope you've enjoyed that, and I look forward to sharing so much more with you in the coming episodes. Have a good week.